We will continue with our media availabilities. We're now joined by Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Reese Draw Type Ford for Team Penske. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Please raise your hand and we'll get to you. We'll start with Jerry, Bob, and Kelly.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and PRN. With Paige being from the affected hurricane areas and your foundation getting heavily involved, can you talk about your efforts and what you guys are doing? I've heard that there's a big event happening next week, and me being from Texas and us being affected, last year, so this means a lot to me personally to see this.
I'm sorry that happened to you last year, but yeah, we're doing what we can. I don't think there's any one person that can do everything, but everybody can do a little bit of something. So. I got to give my wife, Paige, a lot of credit. She skipped the race last weekend so she could be there. And, of course, like you said, my family, Paige's family, who's my family now, lives out on the edge there, out on the coast area. And a lot of her family and friends were certainly affected. So she's been spending some time out there and came back day before yesterday and kind of gave a download. So we got a number of things we're working on and doing for, my foundation, Checker Flag Foundation, which does a lot for first responders and military. And, of course, a lot of first responders are actively involved. And I thought what was interesting because she kind of had her boots on the ground was, even though the hurricane hit that area, you kind of think, well, the worst is over, but it's actually getting worse. So with that in mind, with the flooding and everything, continuing to increase, those guys are in a lot of dire need. And it's nice to see some other people join in. Ryan Newman's foundation, Chrissy Newman, she was out there and doing some things. So we've got some stuff we're doing to help them. And then we have a number of programs from clothing to food trucks and gas to try to help those people out. So Darlington Speedway's helped out. Talladega Speedway's helped out a little bit. We've raised about $40,000 so far, which has been good. And then Paige and I are making some donations as well and matching some donations from our fans. So we're really proud of that. And, we're hopeful that we'll make an impact and help some people that are really in a bad spot. But I got to give my wife most of the credit. She's the one making it happen while I'm trying to win races. And that's been going pretty well. But she's been a real superstar.
We'll go to Bob and then Kelly.
Bob Hockers, ESPN. Do you see any change in the direction of NASCAR now that Steve Phelps will be president?
Honestly, I don't know much about it. I kind of read it with you guys, and I can't say that I really have had a chance to catch up. I mean, I know it's not like Steve hasn't been involved before. Steve's in every meeting I've been a part of, and so I don't really expect a big difference. But I'm not saying that's good or bad, but Steve's been with the team for quite a while.
We'll go to Kelly. Here.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Brad, two things. First off, it's been 15 years since NASCAR eliminated racing back to the yellow flag. You weren't in the series at that time, but can you just explain why that was a necessary rule? Why we can't ever go back? Kind of just your thoughts on the rule first, and then follow.
Yeah. No, I don't really have any strong feelings on it. There's some parts I like, some parts I don't like about it. The pure racer in you wants to always race. But on the flip side, you see some of the danger aspects and how far the sport has come safety-wise. That's part of it. So that's one of the things the sport has going for it is, we've been, knock on wood, very fortunate to not have any major safety issues here in quite some time. And that's something to be proud of. And I think that change probably attributed to it with, cars that are compromised that have already been in a wreck. The last thing they need is to get hit by another car that's going full speed trying to race back. So, I think all in all, it's probably a good change and has helped the safety of the sport.
And secondly, 2 months ago at Pocono, you were telling me that you were confident when you guys would find what you needed when you needed it, talking about speed, execution. You still feel like the last 3 weeks you kind of stole it in a sense, but has the confidence shifted a little bit that you guys now have a fighting chance at this championship?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels good to have those, I think, 25 playoff bonus points now. That's a big deal, especially as you get into these later rounds of the playoffs. So that's been a huge boost for us. The wins, of course, have been really good for the pit crew to build their morale. We've made a number of changes there over the last few years, and and this is the best we've been on pit road. And so with that in mind, we're really proud of that. And when you see it actually deliver results, that means a lot to everybody, and that, like you said, spurs on some confidence. But for me, I think we looked at a few racetracks in the playoffs as being some of our best tracks with Talladega and Martinsville and possibly here at Richmond. So we were pretty pumped up to come here, regardless of whether we had won the last few weeks, and feel this will be a good track for us.
All the way in the back, the blue shirt.
Mark
Is that a
Davis.
good answer, Kelly? I think I got that one. All right.
Mark Davis, NBC 12 here in Richmond. Brad, this is your first look at the revamped infield they've done here. Just your thoughts on the project, and it's geared towards the fans, and just how important that is, and just kind of your overall thoughts on what you see here with the new digs.
Well, I think, Mark, it's nice to see the racetracks spending money. They've been making a lot lately, so it's good to see them put it back into something. But those types of efforts are very important to our sport. It's very important to keep our facilities up to date for our fan experience, and at the core of our sport is keeping our fans engaged. And so, when you upgrade your facilities, you're doing more than just making something nice and shiny. I always like to think that you're showing respect back to the people that use it and make it possible. And so that's something to be proud of for sure.
We'll go down here to Jeff.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. Last week at Vegas, you were talking about how when it's important to know what's on the line for everybody else in the race. You don't have the same thing on the line now that you've advanced. Sure. Will that change anything about what you do on Saturday night? And do you think that there will be some desperate people who are challenging you in that situation?
Well, I think, Jeff, the first thought that comes to mind is, I listened to a little bit of the race broadcast from NBC, and I thought Steve Letarte said something that was really, really smart, which was that, when we get asked by the media, the drivers do, how the playoffs change the way we race and all those things, our natural answer is to say, well, it doesn't affect anything. And I think that's because we're kind of stuck in our own little bubble. Where we don't see how things affect us, even when they do affect us, because it's probably subconsciously. So my initial thought is, no, Jeff, it doesn't change anything. But I think the proof's in the pudding when you watch these races, that things that definitely change when you have different things on the line, whether it be the playoffs or you want to race in the playoffs specifically. Things definitely change, and perhaps they're more subconscious, which makes it hard to give a great answer, because my initial answer is, probably with my heart is no. But when I try to step back and look objectively, it's pretty obvious looking at the field that it does.
We're going to go down here to Paul and end with Wayne.
Brad, Paul Woody, Richmond Times-Dispatch. If I can go back in history a little bit, in 2014 you won twice in the playoffs but didn't make the final round. 2015, Joey Logano won all three races in the second part of the playoffs, didn't make the championship. Would you be in favor of a rule that says if you win a race in the playoffs that you automatically qualify for the championship?
I don't know. There's so many rules as it is. Man, I hate adding more of them. I'd like to get rid of half of them, so every time somebody asks me about making a new rule, I cringe. I don't know. I think that there's always an idea to change and enhance, and sometimes I think we just need to pick some things and stick with them, whether they work perfect or not, and just go. I don't know. That's probably not a great answer, but there's probably no perfect system that's going to make everyone happy. And in this case, to your point, that scenario doesn't make people happy, but that's just the way it is sometimes.
And we'll finish with Wayne. Thank you.
Wayne Epps with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I had two things. I want to start with what do you think has been maybe the catalyst to what you've been able to do over the last few weeks? Anything different for you?
Well, Wayne, I'm not really sure. We've been really strong on pit road. That's certainly helped. We've caught some good breaks with yellow flags and so forth. That's helped. Caught some good breaks with restarts and getting good lanes. That certainly helped. And when the opportunity has presented itself, we haven't screwed it up. And we've got some great opportunities that have presented ourselves cumulatively, and we've put them all together. So that's never a bad thing, right? But with respect to that, I think you have to, one, recognize that we're fortunate to have the opportunities, and that we haven't just dominated the races. You know, when you dominate a race, you don't really need an opportunity. You just don't need any bad luck. But we haven't been dominating the races. We've been able to get opportunities to kind of change our fortune, and we've made the most of them. So I think you recognize that, and then you recognize that making the most of your opportunities is so important in motorsports and in life, and that's where we're at today with these wins that we've had.
And then you won this race in 2014, led almost 17 laps in. Is there anything you can take from a performance like that can still help you now?
That was a phenomenal day. It really was. I feel like we probably could have won 3 or 4 races here, and 2 or 3 of them kind of slipped through my hands on restarts or things of that nature. So, you know, with respect to that's part of what makes winning the last 3 so sweet, is knowing that I've had a lot of other races that have fallen apart where we've had the opportunity. Makes you appreciate them. But Richmond's one of those tracks that, you know, we just really like. We get around here pretty well, and I'm looking forward to the race.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Good luck
Thank you,
this
guys.
weekend.
Have a good one.